All right, so I am doing this video in response to a comment that I got from a subscriber who shared my content with someone who is a die-hard Feast of Trumpets Rapture person and a die-hard Yom Kippur start of the 70th week or Day of Atonement start of the 70th week. I would advise every single person against that because all you're going to do is have a battle on your hands. People can believe whatever they would like. Let them. If someone is not open to believing something differently, it is legitimately a waste of time to try. The reason I'm saying this is because I spent years on a forum trying to convince people of this and finally had to leave because I needed to get further than I was going to be allowed in that conversation by people who were die-hard Fall Feast people. It is a losing proposition to try to present new information or different information, not even new, but just different information to people who are convinced of whatever they're convinced of. One of the things that I want to make clear here is that you cannot use logic against illogic. The reason I'm saying this is one of the reasons this person has apparently backed into this argument of Day of Atonement, start of the 70th week, end of the 70th week, is because of Ezekiel 40, verse 1. And they're saying that this is related to the Day of Atonement, the beginning of the year, the 10th day of the month. And the reason they're saying that, rather than recognizing that it's a reference to Nisan 1, is because the Jews have a different start of the civil year. While that may be true, it is solely unbiblical. There is nothing in the Bible that tells the Jews to have any other start of the year than Nisan 1 when it was changed in Exodus 12 to the beginning of months. Exodus 12:2 is the first reference. Here we have beginning of the year. Exodus 12:2 was the command. This shall be unto you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year unto you. The beginning of the year, 100% of the time after Exodus 12, is a reference to the first month, which is the month Nisan. The only way that someone could justify it being Tishri is if they say, well, the Jews use a different start of the civil year. I don't care what they do because the Bible doesn't instruct to do that. So irrespective of whether that is true or false, which, yes, they obviously start their civil year in the month of Tishri, doesn't matter. It's not scriptural. It's not biblical. If you are looking to understand the biblical timeline, you have to go based on what the Bible says of itself, the way it interprets itself. It doesn't matter whether people adhere to it or don't adhere to it. The Bible tells you precisely what it means 100% of the time. There are 5 scriptures, as you can see, that discuss the beginning of the year. Numbers 28, the beginnings of your months. And then it goes into talk about, in the beginning of the months, they're supposed to do an offering, and then it refers to the Passover several verses later. The beginning of the months is Nisan. The beginning of the year, even to the end of the year, in Deuteronomy, would be a reference to Nisan to Nisan. Jeremiah 28 is totally talking about something different. It's just locating those words in the same verse. And by the time you get to Ezekiel 40 verse 1, you are intended to understand, based on the way that the calendar works from Exodus 12 forward, that the beginning of the year is 100% of the time going to be in the month Nisan. And the reason it's telling you the 10th day of the month is because you are to understand that that is the commencement of a week of years, which have the Nisan 10 start date as bookmarked, benchmarked by Joshua 4:19, as the command to begin the Sabbath cycles, which lead to the declaration of Jubilee. Based on Leviticus 25, 1 and 2, the command, when ye shall come into the land that I give you, then the land shall keep a Sabbath unto the Lord. They came up out of the Jordan on the 10th day of the first month, which is Nisan, and then 4 days later they celebrated the Passover. You cannot use logic to deal with illogical people. If someone is dead set on fall, and they are unshakable and immovable from that, it is a complete and utter waste of time to try to present biblical reason for an unbiblical foundation. It does not matter what calendar the Jews use as the start of their civil year. The Bible does not, has never, since Exodus 12, instructed them to do that. Therefore, if you are using their reasoning for your processes, which is a departure from biblical reasoning, you are not going to come to a correct conclusion. And so asking me to weigh in on, to give a logical response to someone who bases their entire belief system about this on illogic is also going to be a waste of time for me, because what am I supposed to say? You're wrong? But they're not, they're convinced that they're not. I'm convinced they are. They are convinced they're not. We are not going to be able to come to a resolution there. So let them do them. I will do me. And it is up to you guys to not rely on what I'm saying, not rely on what they're saying. Is you need to do your own due diligence and go to the Bible and see what it says, because it will tell you precisely what it means. This is why when people get so used to listening to other people, it becomes an impediment to true learning, because you are relying on whatever filter, whatever bias, whatever preconception they have to teach you what you believe, rather than just going to the Bible and concluding what you should believe all by yourself. I realize that it's easier to listen to other people to help, but it is not always more beneficial to do that, and this is one of those cases where it is not. It is clear by references to the beginning of the year that from Exodus 12, it is the month Nisan intended. And you would not depart from a biblical rationale simply because the Jews do something differently. Who cares what they do? Stick to the Bible.